Hey dudes, Reagan with Texas Defense Articulations again, here with another 1911. I know I'm a little bit of a 1911 guy, so bear with me on that. What I have here is a Nighthawk Recon, I think that it is. So, one of my clients, Olson, I'll throw a shout out to that dude, decided that he was going to go for a trade on this gun, and it looked brand spanking new when he got it. So he calls me on the way home from his trade, and he's like, hey, I've got this cool Nighthawk pistol. I want to get you 1,000 rounds and let you run 1,000 rounds through this gun. Let me do a review on it. Tell me what you think. I'm like, all right, cool. I was pretty excited about it because I've shot a couple of Nighthawk guns in my life, but I've never owned one myself or had time to just sit there and burn 1,000 rounds through it. So I'm going to deep dive in it real quick. So let's talk about the good stuff about this pistol. It's beautiful, man. It's the finish is really good on it, man. The fitting, the gunsmith who actually fitted this whole gun together, got to be great at it, man. It's nice and smooth. That's something I didn't put on my little sheet here, was when you put a magazine in this thing and send the slide home, that first round feeding in out of that mag is one of the smoothest I've run into. It's actually very good. And I was like, man, it's the first time I did it, I was like, that's great. And it wasn't even lubed up with Slip 2000 when I first did that. It was like some hop stuff, and I could feel that it wasn't perfect. So I did eventually clean that out and put Slip 2000 in it. So it looks really, really, really good. And it is fitted quite well. The trigger on this thing is actually really, really good for the range. It is very light. I haven't put a trigger gauge on it yet, but it's light enough. I'm a little cautious about it, but it did make this thing easy to be accurate with. The sights are phenomenal. The only thing I don't like about it is these little hiney dot in the rear, or heiny, or whatever you want to call it. I don't really care. It looks like a hiney hole right there. I don't care for that at all, but at the same time, it's not in the way. Doesn't really bother me too much. But the front sight is nice and narrow, and the rear sight has a good width of notch in it, so you can see if that front sight's left or right very easy during that trigger press, and it makes this gun a lot easier to be accurate with. The serrations on the back of the slide, something I haven't had on any of my own personal pistols, and I've seen it a few times. I'm like, man, I kind of like that. Even the rear of the extractor and everything's all blended in there nice. It's going to be nuts when you have to change the extractor if you're shooting this a lot, but I really like the way that looks, and it actually does do a little for cutting down on the glare. Nothing crazy or anything like that, but maybe it's just something I like. Let's see, the slide stop is cut flush on the support side, or the other side of the gun. So Larry Vickers likes to point that out. If you're shooting left-handed, you can inadvertently put your thumb up there while the gun's firing and cycling, and start pushing that slide stop out. So this is actually kind of both ways. It's not perfectly flush like my professional that I have. It's actually kind of half and half, and what that means is it's a little bit easier to put this gun back together. So I like that feature also. It's like a nice little add-on to that sort of thing. One of the best parts about this gun is it is accurate. I shot quite a few groups with it at 7 and 15 yards. It did fantastic. So I'm going to leave it at that. Those are the good parts. It's quite a few bad parts, so let's talk it. You'll notice in a lot of the video that I am wearing a glove on doing the Michael Jackson thing, wearing a glove on my left hand. There's a reason why, and we will get to it. But the first thing initially, right when I picked this gun up, the first thing I noticed is these slide serrations that are for gripping the gun are about 2 notches above useless. They are not very deep at all, and they're not very aggressive. So with my hands on a nice dry day, doesn't seem to be like or a nice cool dry day, it doesn't seem to be a big deal. But if it's wet or I am sweating because it's incredibly hot like it usually is in Texas, these will just slip right out. And there's a couple chunks of video, maybe I can get a little part of it, where you can see me having to have that issue, especially if you're working with gloves. These do not work well at all. Not a fan. The checkering on the front strap and the rear mainspring housing is decorative. It doesn't do anything. And a huge downside of it is when I have a gun that does not have anything right there and it's nice and smooth, typically on more cost-effective guns, I'll get some skateboard tape for $4, put it on there, and it does everything that I need it to do. The problem with these being all divoted in like that is it's just decorative, doesn't do anything, and there's no surface area for that skateboard tape to attach to, and therefore it will come off sooner. You might be able to get it to stay on there for a little while, but yeah, these serrations right there, or the checkering right there, is not useful at all. One of the worst parts about this gun is this slide stop lever. I know I like the flush. The other side is actually extended. There's no knurling or serrations right here on the where you usually put your thumb down. That didn't bother me at all. What did bother me is this thing sticking out. This is the only time out of 100 1911s that I put real rounds through that I was actually inducing a malfunction by my support hand being in a position to actually hit this slide stop because it's extended out further. That and another issue kept causing that, and we'll get onto that in just a minute. So, not a fan of this at all. I have had 3 or 4 range trips with this gun. Every single time I had that issue, with and without a glove on. So, not a fan of that. The trigger is good, but it's a bit too light for a duty trigger. And this having the Recon name or whatever it is, I'm probably messing that up. Then it's supposed to be something that people are willing to use on duty. This is not a duty trigger. This is too light to be a duty trigger, especially if you're wearing gloves. You're going to have a negligent discharge. So I've actually got a neck injury that I've had for a couple of months, and here recently it's kind of, I should have taken care of it better, but my index finger on my right hand, which is my trigger finger, is numb. And so several times I was pointed towards the target, I was intending to fire. The gun actually did fire before I was ready for it to, simply because I can't feel the end of that finger very well. And so I was like, yep, that thing's a little bit light. You put gloves on it. Actually, I did better with gloves on it. When I shot support hand, same deal. And I can feel this one just fine. It was just a bit too light for something to be a duty trigger. So any of the guys that I know use these guns on duty or anything like that, they tend to run a little bit of a heavier trigger. The downside is, you know, it's a little bit heavier, so you got to be a little slower with your firing to make sure that you're good and accurate with it. But yeah, not going to jump further into that. If you don't like that, then that's fine. I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, kind of one that's definitely 100% opinion on this is going to be that there's no ambidextrous safety. It's just a single-sided safety, and it's kind of ground off at a little bit of a weird angle, but it didn't seem to bother me. It's just different than I normally see. Ambidextrous safeties, a lot of guys don't like them because if you're carrying appendix or strong or right-handed, then if you're rubbing up against stuff, that ambidextrous side can actually get knocked off. So me personally, I do carry a 5-inch 1911 with a light on it and an optic appendix style, and I like to be able to reach down there and make sure that thing's on safe. But, you know, again, that's neither here nor there. It's definitely opinion, but for the money, I've kind of figured it would have come with an ambidextrous safety. The magwell is actually quite a bit smaller than what you typically run into on like a Wilson style or Wilson Combat style magwell. I'm not seeing any advantage to chopping the magwell down, so I'm not sure why they went with that, other than it's a little bit of it's aesthetically pleasing. Like I said before, it's one of the best parts of the gun. The grip panels here, this texture is linear with recoil, and what that means is as I'm gripping this gun and it begins to fire, it actually, instead of keeping the gun still in my hand, it just allows the gun to move back and forth and cut into my hand. I've got pretty tough hands. I run super aggressive grips and super aggressive checkering on all my guns that I'm going to use, and this one just unnecessarily cuts into my hands. And because it doesn't help control the gun moving back and forth, it exacerbates the issue of hitting this slide stop. So not a fan of that. So if you got a gun like, or if you decided you wanted something like this, this would be a pistol that you would purchase, in my opinion, as a heirloom or an investment, right? It's not going to go down in value or anything like that. It is quite expensive, and you know, like custom guns used to be $2,500 like 10 years ago. Now you're looking at 4, and I've got one that I'm waiting to pick up that's $4,200, right? I totally get that this is going to actually gain value. So for that aspect, probably a good thing. Like it's going to be an investment. If you're buying this gun to take on duty or train the bejesus out of, I'm going to hard no. There's a lot of other good options out there available, and I use, everybody's probably seen my TRP video. I use that as a good benchmark to go by, and yeah, so I'm not going to go too much further into that. So one of the things that I want to mention, again, I have no monetary investment in this gun at all. This is not mine, and it's not going to be mine. When it comes to all the other guns that are on my channel or whatever that I'm reviewing, the vast majority of them, like, I purchased myself. So I can say what I want about them. If you think I'm nitpicking or something like that, you can think I'm nitpicking. That's fine. Especially on a gun like this, of course I'm going to nitpick. If you're not nitpicking a $4,000 pistol, then you're just buying it because someone told you it was cool. So I'm not interested in making money for anyone else. I'm interested in using my millions of rounds of expertise and hundreds of thousands of dollars in training to convey what I think about the usefulness of a certain handgun, right? So I've had people complain that I was nitpicking a $400 or $500 gun and then complain that I'm nitpicking a $4,000 gun. Man, whatever. Like, not worried about that sort of thing at all. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I'm not going to make any money off of it. I don't care about making money for other people. So if you don't like that, you can bounce out of the channel, vote with your dollars. I mean, I'm not even like monetized on YouTube yet. Maybe one day I'll do that, but right now, not a thing. I am, however, objective, and I'm not really worried about making people feel good about their purchase. I'm worried about conveying my expertise on this particular firearm. So I think that's it. So till next time, out.